The two witnesses. We've reached the middle of the 7-year period, marked as times, time, and a half time, 1,260 days and 42 months, designated to end this age and bring about Christ's second coming. In chapter 10, John received a small scroll from a powerful angel. That scroll was originally written by the prophet Daniel, but he was told to seal it up and hand it back to a powerful angel for safekeeping. Then in chapter 10, that same angel handed the scroll to John and told him to eat it. Back in Daniel, we're told that the secret prophecy regards the second half of tribulation. Daniel 12:7 also reminded us that the point of all this calamity was to shatter the power of the holy people. The holy people refers to the people of Israel, and shattering refers to breaking their resistance to God and His Word. The ultimate outcome of tribulation is to bring Israel to faith and fulfill the promises God gave them. What we study in chapters 11 through 14 are all happening at the same time. Revelation 11:1. Then there was given me a measuring rod, like a staff, and someone said, "Get up and measure the temple of God and the altar, and those who worship in it. Leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it. For it has been given to the nations, and they will tread underfoot the holy city for 42 months. John is taken to a Jewish temple and told to measure it and make note of those who worship there. Though the Orthodox Jews dearly desire to rebuild their temple, they have been unable to do so for nearly 2,000 years. As we enter the middle tribulation, we learn that the temple is operating in Israel, and the Jewish people are worshiping there. Despite the war and supernatural calamities taking place during the first half of tribulation, the temple continues to operate. It seems that the Lord has been sparing Israel from these disasters during this time. Notice in verse 2, we're told that the Gentiles continue to tread down the holy city, even though we are only 3.5 years away from Jesus' return. Still, the city of Jerusalem remains trampled by Gentiles, and that trampling is about to get much worse. Revelation 11:3 says, "And I will grant authority to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands that stand before the Lord of the earth. And if anyone wants to harm them, fire flows out of their mouth and devours their enemies. So if anyone wants to harm them, he must be killed in this way. These have the power to shut up the sky so that rain will not fall during the days of their prophesying. And they have power over the waters to turn them into blood and to strike the earth with every plague as often as they desire." John is connecting the operation of the temple with the ministry of these men. The ministry of these 2 men serves the purpose of condemning the world for its sin prior to judgment. They wear only sackcloth, which is the traditional garb of prophets mourning and suffering in Israel, and they have supernatural powers. Zechariah 4:12 says, "And I answered the second time and said to him, What are the 2 olive branches which are beside the 2 golden pipes, which empty the golden oil from themselves?" So he answered me, saying, "Do you not know what these are?" And I said, "No, my Lord." Then he said, "These are the two anointed ones who are standing by the Lord of the whole earth. Zechariah wonders about the lampstands and olive trees standing on either side, and the Lord tells him that these are the two anointed ones. But the phrase in Hebrew literally reads the two sons of oil. These two men stand by the Lord of the whole earth. That phrase means that their ministry will have worldwide impact, meaning they literally impact every person on earth. We know these guys were prophesying to the world for 3.5 years, and in that time they could not be harmed. Meanwhile, they brought great harm on the earth, and naturally everyone hated them for it. These guys were the narrators for the natural disasters that were playing out everywhere. They provided an explanation to accompany the seal and the trumpet judgments, so that no one missed the point. During the first 3.5 years of tribulation, they will be blamed for everything bad that happens, which will ensure that the world connects these events they see with the explanations that these men offer. No one will pin it on climate change or aliens. Everyone will hear these things as being judgment from God. But the world will choose to see that these two men are the cause, and they will look no further. Revelation 11:7. When they have finished their testimony, the beast that comes out of the abyss will make war with them and overcome and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city, which mystically is called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified. Those from the peoples and tribes and tongues and nations will look at their dead bodies for 3.5 days, and will not permit their dead bodies to be laid in a tomb. We can clearly see what city this is. It's the city where the Lord was crucified, which can only be Jerusalem. But John says this city is also mystically called Sodom and Egypt. Sodom was a city of great depravity, while Egypt was the nation that first introduced idolatry to the Jewish people. By the time of mid-tribulation, Jerusalem will become a city of great depravity and idolatry. The beast will certainly be celebrated as a world hero. Revelation 11:11. But after the 3.5 days, the breath of life from God came into them, and they stood on their feet, and great fear fell upon those who were watching them. And they heard a loud voice from heaven saying, "Come to them, come up here." Then they went up into heaven in the cloud, and their enemies watched them. Many speculate that the world's unified response to the events of the two witnesses is made possible by modern technology. However, consider this. All modern technology will be inoperable by this point in time. The disasters will have been too great to allow modern infrastructure to operate. The whole earth knows of what they do, because the whole earth will be reduced to a relatively small community centered in the Middle East. Revelation 11:14. The second woe is past. Behold, the third woe is coming quickly. The final woe judgment will be the 7 bowl judgments, which come at the very end of tribulation. And the temple of God, which is in the heaven, was opened, and the ark of his covenant appeared in his temple. And there were flashes of lightning, and sounds and peals of thunder, and an earthquake, and a great hailstorm. The nations were enraged against God, and then God's wrath came, which is a reference to the bowl judgments.